So the subject of non-self, the doctrine of anatta or anatman, and the Buddha said on the subject of this from the Dharma, all things whatsoever are devoid of unchanging selfhood. When one sees this with insight, one becomes weary of suffering. This is the way to purity. Now, what's being pointed at here is that because of our attachment to try to hold on to things, we very much try to pigeonhole things as just a face, a bit like an icon on a desktop of a computer, without understanding what is behind it. Maybe all kinds of reasons, almost instinctual, but we start to just see things as a surface. We don't see, so to speak, what's behind the curtain. I mean, if you take anything, I mean, if we take a tree, for instance, it's not the tree. We see a trunk and we see the branches coming out of it, and we see the leaves, but then we don't see, we don't see the roots going into the ground. We don't understand where the tree came from. We don't really see all this background, how intimately it is woven into the universe. It's not just the tree, it is the universe. Everything has everything else in it through its connections, through the water, through its systems going into the ground, the communication, the scent, or the animals which live in that tree, all of its ancestors from the seeds being given by other trees, which are also connected to the trees, have all come related to different branches of evolution all the way back in time. And it is nothing which is conditioned is really is complete reliance on other things, other conditioned things. And of course, this is for ourselves as well. We don't we all have these, we're looking at somebody else, and we're just seeing that person. They disappear and they go off, and we don't really think about them, and they come back. Maybe once we get to know them more, we begin to understand what it is that they are made up of. But we all know when we reflect on ourselves, which we need to do, that we all have, parents and siblings and uncles and grandparents all the way back in time. We all probably don't need to go back that far in time, that all our grandparents start to be the same. And so we this sort of sense that nobody is what they are, and we all likewise, we see each other at our different stages of life, and we're all different ages, but there's always, we're this symbol of all the things which have happened throughout our lifetime. And this is a continuation for all time. Everything is changing all the time, all our mental states. And we really look at ourselves, we're not a stable mental state. Not to say that we're mad, but we're always completely changing all the time. An example of this was, which the Buddha gave as an example, is the 5 skandhas, which I don't know if everybody is familiar with. It's interesting, the 5 skandhas, when I'm tending to go to Sangharakshita for guidance with all the things I'm saying here, but when you Google the 5 skandhas, everybody seems to have a slightly different opinion about how it all works. So people might slightly disagree with how I put this, but if we start with form or rupa, so the 5 skandhas are the psychological makeup of a human being. And we consider ourselves in Buddhism to be minds, fundamentally minds. So this is fundamentally how fluid we are and how things change so often. The form or rupa is our senses, is what we sense, we see, we hear, we taste, we touch, and our mind, which is another sense, also informs us and will actually feed into this objects as the mind. And those, based upon those rupas, we get feelings. So they might be pleasant, unpleasant, or just very neutral. And from that point on, we will get perceptions based on what we've seen. For example, we'll get a sense of a feeling, and then we'll start getting a perception of something like that red mat. And I'll have plucked that red mat, will come in, I'll have had some sense of it, and then I will start to build upon the perception of that. And that then we will have the volitions which will make me want to act on what I have seen or what I have perceived. And then that will be emotions, will generally maybe make me act. And at this point we'll become what we're doing. And then that will feed back into these other things. Now this all sounds quite deliberate, but it's not. It's happening at microsecond basis all the time. We're constantly changing all the time. Our mental processes are going around and round. Sometimes the feeling can go straight to the consciousness. Sometimes the consciousness will go to perceptions. It will just be this intermingling system. It's almost impossible to describe it. And it's something which I've certainly reflected on a lot, and I'm still not quite sure exactly what it is. It's like all these actioners, they're there to constantly reflect on. Until you become enlightened, you should carry on reflecting on them. But everything arises on conditions. So this this idea of the self or ego is responsible for greed, hatred, and delusion, which obviously is the drivers for dukkha. And as I said, because of the way our mind is working in this almost microsecond process, because we've been driven by greed, hatred, and delusion, it's almost like we don't have free will. We've been driven around in this cyclical process. We're just reacting. Things are coming in. We're getting a sense of them, and then we have some emotions and we act. And it's not like, and our mind then takes an idea of what we've just been acting on, and then because of being driven by greed, hatred, and delusion, we suffer. We just do stupid stuff. We just make stuff up in our heads. It just sort of goes around and around. Which does bring up the idea of, do we have free will in a way? And so this is so what's going on here is the five skandhas describe this self, this idea of fixed self. We think we know what we're doing. We think we know what we like. We're constantly caught in this sort of cyclical existence of going around and around in like a hamster wheel. There's a lot of people, and so the idea is that we want to sort of get rid of this ego. A lot of people go, but I like my ego, or I like myself. And I think this is a common misunderstanding. You're still going to have a self. It's just this recognition that we have a fluid self. And we've got to we're looking to refine ourselves so that our state of mind becomes more fluid and more appreciative of what is before us, with a healthy sense of what is before us, instead of getting into the fixed hatred, greed, and delusion mindset. So we're looking to develop the unconditioned mind to become more appreciative of the transcendental and the unconditioned. So how do we develop a non-self? Sangharakshita talks about the true individual, which is an individual, or it's like a big self, or a heart mind, getting in touch with these things. And how do we do that? Well, we're all on the path practicing mindfulness and metta. We start becoming aware of ethics and behaving in a good way. We're in the Sangha, so we understand that we have friends here who we can express our inner fears and our weaknesses to without feeling vulnerable. We start developing positive mental states. We start having a very healthy relationship with our sense experience. So with the life, so instead of reacting to the senses, we feel a sense of more appreciation and joy in the senses, and not sort of trying to push away everything, just allowing things to be in our present moment. But as the true individual, once you've started to do the Buddhist practices I've been talking about, which are so numerous, I can't really go into them in too many details, apart from you need to become more kind and metaphor and mindful. As you become more of a true individual, you're less likely to go with the group madness. You'll have a Dharma to inform you about an ethic and Dharma ethics to inform you about the right process to proceed in life, which will inform our behaviour and our integration into the universe. You could say as our Buddha nature grows, we will become more non-self. At the moment, we all have this sense of the unconditionedness. That's why we're in the Buddhist centre and why we enjoy coming here. So there's this sort of sense of us which knows what is instinctively right. But when we first start, we have maybe a certain sense of it being a certain size. And as we continue to do our practice, we get more of a sense of it growing and this unconditioned side of us. Then you say that this sense of the Buddha nature or the transcendental within us is a non-self. We're trying to just move it into the rest, to majority of our psyche. And as it grows, we move into to have and understand the non-self. You could say you can move into what we call stream entry. That is the condition of stream entry, is that you understand and you fully understand and feel and understand that non-self dimension. All non-self is equal to shunyata. It is this sort of fluid, dynamic system which doesn't hold and identify itself as any one thing. And also shunyata, which is also talked about as emptiness. And that's empty of greed, empty of hatred, and empty of delusion, and full, you could say, of generosity, love, and wisdom. That's enlightenment. Thank you.
Thank you.